In this video, we'll be beginning our solids unit and looking at prisms. Now first off, a solid is a 3D object. It's three-dimensional. It's kind of like a box or a trash can or even a car would be a 3D object. So some basic vocabulary that goes with solids is listed here. First off, we have a vertex. A vertex is a point on a solid where three or more edges intersect. The base of a solid is the surface that a solid stands on. The base edge is one of the edges along the base. The lateral edge is one of the edges formed by the lateral sides. And what we mean by lateral is what's on the side, what's not on the base. A lateral face is a polygon in the solid that is not a base. And a net is a pattern you can cut out to fold into a solid. So if you need to pause the video to write these down, that's fine. In the next screen, we'll be looking at a picture, and we'll actually look at what each of these look like. All right, so let's see what these look like. So vertex, if you think of the definition, it's where three edges meet. So look at C. That little point C right there, that is my vertex. It's because this edge, and this edge all meet up at C. So vertex is basically just a point where those sides meet up. It's kind of like a corner of the solid. Let's see here. Let's look next at base. So the base is what the solid stands on. So D would have to be the base because it's what the solid is resting on. All right, next up, let's look at base edge. So one of the edges of the base is B because it's an edge of the base. Now also, all four of these lines up here would be base edges because I could rest it on that as well. All right, next up we have lateral edge. So the lateral edge will be one of the sides around it. So A is the edge of the side faces. And finally, a lateral face, so one of the faces that's not a base would be E. So that's the basic vocab that goes with it. We also need to draw a net. Remember, a net is what happens when we unfold it. So I always start by drawing the base, so it's a square. And then, let's see, we're going to unfold it. So it's going to look something like this right here. So that would be the net of this solid. Bottom and then top would be right there, of course. All right, so let's look at this real quickly. This isn't in your notes, but this is just kind of give you an idea. If you look at the triangular prism here, you're going to notice the number of vertices is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number of faces, it has a rectangle up front, a rectangle on the back, a rectangle on the bottom. That's 3. And then 2 triangles, so 4, 5. And the number of edges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now this prism has 2 bases. Okay, and we'll talk more about bases in a minute. And the name of the base is a triangle. So that's why it's called a triangular prism. Number of lateral faces, so how many faces are not bases? 1, 2, 3. And the name of the lateral face is a rectangle. And that's the net when we unfold it, what it looks like. And one more, let's look at the cylinder. The number of vertices is, I don't see any vertices, no edges, so 0. Has 3 faces, the circle, and this rectangle going around. And number of edges, I see none there as well. But mainly what I want you to see here is not worry about this, but worry about the net. Notice the net of a cylinder is a circle, and rectangle. All right, so on your paper at the bottom, it says practice match the following nets with their corresponding 3D figure. Right now, pause the video, try those out. All right, let's see how you did. As we scroll down, we can see each of the pictures here. So, this first problem, the net would be C, like we just looked at, because it's a cylinder. Problem 2, the net would have to be D, because it's not a cube, but we do have 2 square parts. This one would have to be B, Now problem 4, it has a bunch of triangles, so E, and then 5 would have to be A. So make sure you know how to match nets up. That's very important. All right, with that said, let's move on to the back there on talking about solids, notes, and surface area and volume. So some new vocab here. Polyhedron. A polyhedron is a solid that is bounded by polygons called faces that enclose a single region of space. It's basically just a three-dimensional shape, but it has polygons as all the sides. Lateral area, so the lateral surface area of any of these objects, is the sum of the areas of the lateral faces of a polyhedron or other solid. So for example, if I have a box here, the lateral area would be not including the bases, so it would only include the 4 sides of the box and not the top or bottom. The surface area is the sum of the areas of the faces of a polyhedron or other solid. So for lateral, it's just around the sides. For surface area, it's all the sides. And finally, volume is the number of cubic units contained in the interior of a solid. How much will fit inside of it? So surface area is around it. Volume is what's inside. All right, so the formulas for these are given as follows. The surface area for a prism, the lateral surface area is defined by pH, where P is the perimeter of the base, and H is the height. So it's the perimeter of the base times the height. The total surface area, including the base, is the perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. So big B is area of the base, big P is perimeter of the base. And finally, the volume of a prism is given by big base times H. It should be a little h there. So the area of the base times the height. Now, what is a prism? Well, a prism is a polyhedron with 2 congruent faces called bases that lie in parallel planes. So it has 2 congruent bases. And it has all rectangles that make up the lateral faces. So once again, lateral area is perimeter of the base times the height. Surface area is perimeter of the base plus 2 times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. And the volume is the area of the base times the height. So let's try some practice problems here. All right. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here and resume it for some practice problems.